Welcome to the Tim Booker channel, where wisdom is worth sharing. Wishing you an enjoyable listening experience. In this audio, we'll be decoding How to Be an Imperfectionist. This book delves into how to break free from perfectionism and improve our lives. You might find it a bit peculiar because, according to our understanding, perfectionism isn't necessarily a bad thing. Even in daily life, some people complain to their friends, "I have a bit of perfectionism," or "I'm a perfectionist." Have you ever noticed that when people say these things, they're acknowledging their flaws but often with a hint of pride? Even during job interviews, when asked about your biggest weakness, perfectionism is a popular card to play. In our minds, perfectionism equates to wanting to do things exceptionally well, striving for excellence, and it's often seen as the driving force behind self-improvement. However, this book tells us that in reality, perfectionism is a complete fraud. It wears the cloak of perfection while leading you to become a pessimistic, sluggish, and action-lacking individual. Many of the little flaws in us, such as procrastination, fear of making choices, social anxiety, compulsions, aversion to challenges, and emotional lows, are actually influenced by perfectionism. This book is a guide for correcting our perfectionist behaviors. It tells us that only by becoming imperfectionists, by letting go of perfectionist thinking and habits, can we enhance our motivation, strengthen our self-identity, and achieve a healthy life and emotional state. The author of this book is Stephen Guise. He was once a freelance writer who, in order to change himself, began exploring the secrets of boosting motivation in 2012. In 2016, he became a world-renowned best-selling author with his book on habits. His books have been translated into 17 languages and have sold 300,000 copies. In How to Be an Imperfectionist, he provides us with effective methods to help us overcome perfectionism. Next, I will break down this book into two parts. First, we'll discuss why perfectionism has confined our lives, and then we'll explore how to become a free and imperfect imperfectionist. Let's start by addressing the first question: why does perfectionism confine our lives? To clarify this question, we need to first discuss what perfectionism is as a mindset. Honestly, in this book, the author doesn't provide a precise definition of perfectionism because psychologists have various interpretations of it. However, psychologists can agree that perfectionism isn't entirely a positive attitude, it encompasses several negative psychological aspects. For instance, in 2004, researchers at Appalachian State University in the United States introduced a perfectionism scale consisting of 8 dimensions. Among these, some are positive, such as tidiness and orderliness, pursuit of excellence, and careful planning. However, there are also negative dimensions, including excessively high expectations, persistent worry about mistakes, the need for approval, hesitation in taking action, and being overly self-critical. In this book, the author reanalyzes these aspects. He believes that perfectionism comprises 5 negative attitudes: excessively high expectations, being stuck in the past, the need for approval, persistent worry about mistakes, and hesitation in taking action. You'll notice that perfectionism is more complex than a simple pursuit of excellence. These negative factors often hinder us and, in some cases, perfectionism leads us to hide our fear of failure behind a facade of pursuing excellence. To illustrate this point, consider the following example. 2 craftsmen participate in a carving competition, both aiming to create exceptional works of art. During the competition, both make significant mistakes leading to their failure. Craftsman A becomes extremely disheartened, constantly replaying the embarrassing moment in his mind, even feeling like a failure who can't do anything right. To avoid making a spectacle of himself, he decides not to participate in uncertain competitions anymore. Craftsman B, on the other hand, while regretful of his failure, still loves carving and recognizes that failure is a part of growth. He practices more at home, gains confidence, and courageously enters the next competition, continually challenging his own artistic limits. It's evident that although both seem to pursue excellence, their attitudes towards failure differ significantly. Craftsman A refuses to accept imperfection, denying the value of failure. He's a classic perfectionist who limits himself due to the fear of failure and avoids challenging himself. In contrast, Craftsman B is the one truly striving for excellence. He acknowledges the meaning of failure, accepts imperfect outcomes, and embodies the spirit of pursuing the utmost. This example highlights that perfectionism is not the same as striving for excellence. If perfectionism were an iceberg, the tiny tip above the water's surface would represent the desire for perfection, while the vast 90% below the surface would symbolize the fear of failure. In other words, perfectionism doesn't necessarily make you more determined to win, it can also make you more afraid to lose. Due to this fear, perfectionism obstructs our actions and hampers our performance. Have you ever experienced a situation where you wanted to lose weight, created a plan to shed 10 pounds in 2 months, and even purchased a gym membership, setting a goal to work out at least 3 times a week for 30 minutes each session? However, unexpected events kept disrupting your plan, like bad weather, social gatherings, or excessive work stress. If a friend suggested taking short walks in the morning to make use of spare time, you might have strongly resisted, thinking it was too early, the neighborhood wasn't ideal, and it wouldn't achieve your expected results. Eventually, you gave up, felt down, and started resenting yourself, perceiving yourself as overweight and unattractive. This, in fact, was my personal experience. After reading this book, I realized that this was the result of perfectionism. I always expected a perfect time, a perfect place, and a perfect experience. This is what's known as waiting for the perfect moment, and it becomes my excuse for inaction, simultaneously eroding my confidence. Just imagine if I set conditions of perfection for everything I do: reading must be in a tranquil cafe during leisurely afternoons, studying in a spotless room, and dates must take place in romantically sunlit locations. Then, during most imperfect times, we'd find it challenging to take action, and our lives would miss out on numerous possibilities. Furthermore, research has shown that perfectionism affects performance. A project group conducted a perfectionism assessment on 51 undergraduate female students. After the assessment, they were asked to condense a passage while preserving its original meaning as much as possible. The results revealed that the high perfectionism group performed significantly worse in the condensation test compared to the low perfectionism group. Why does this happen? Experts explain that perfectionism often pushes one's conscious intensity to its limits, disrupting preconscious thought processes. In other words, the more you concentrate on achieving perfection, the more your deliberate awareness of perfection occupies your mental space, affecting your performance. You see, perfectionism isn't as admirable as it may appear on the surface, because the essence of the world we live in is imperfection. However, perfectionism prevents us from accepting anything less than perfection. While perfectionism can be a driving force for some individuals in critical situations, if we can't tolerate imperfection constantly, it brings us more harm. Given the harmful nature of perfectionism, why is it still so prevalent? The author presents a hypothesis in the book. Throughout our lives, from childhood onwards, both the people around us and ourselves have focused excessively on outcomes while neglecting the process. What does this mean? Think about it. From infancy, parents start paying attention to results. Dad learned to walk, great. Dad can talk now, amazing. In school, grades become the sole measure of academic performance. In the workplace, your boss evaluates your worth based on achievements. Over time, we develop a sense that outcomes are paramount, and the process of achievement is merely a means to an end. The shorter the process, the better, as anything else hinders our progress. To attain perfect results, you begin crafting perfect plans and binding yourself to various goals. When you achieve these goals, you experience brief moments of pleasure, but soon you feel unsatisfied and dive into the next plan. When these goals become challenging to achieve, you fear others witnessing your failure. Consequently, you start setting limitations on yourself and avoid engaging in activities that are challenging or could expose your flaws. For instance, you avoid impromptu public speaking in front of a crowd, even if you enjoy expressing your thoughts. You shy away from participating in knowledge competitions, even if you have the knowledge. You refrain from confessing your feelings to someone you like because avoiding the potential embarrassment of failure becomes more appealing than receiving praise. By now, you may have realized that perfectionism has become an ingrained habit, deeply woven into your thinking patterns. It confines you within standardized boundaries, limiting your infinite life possibilities. So, how can we break free from these limitations, take bold actions, and embrace a world of limitless possibilities? The author offers us a new perspective: become an imperfectionist. Now, let's delve into how to be an imperfectionist. As mentioned earlier, the essence of perfectionism isn't about wanting to win, it's about fearing to lose. It causes individuals to self-impose limitations due to the fear of failure, confining themselves within a safety zone, making it challenging to break free. In contrast, becoming an imperfectionist hinges on accepting imperfection with equanimity and acknowledging the value of failure. It's crucial to note that accepting failure doesn't equate to complacency. On the contrary, imperfectionists are the true seekers of excellence. They focus solely on the opportunities and progress at hand, unconcerned about the perfection of conditions or whether the outcome aligns with their wishes. It's this spirit of concentrating on incremental progress and remaining undeterred by success or failure that enables them to fearlessly tackle challenges and consistently surpass their limits. NBA superstar Tracy McGrady provides a perfect illustration of imperfectionism. Basketball enthusiasts are likely familiar with his legendary McGrady moment, where he scored 13 points in 35 seconds during a game in 2004. In that game, both the San Antonio Spurs and McGrady's teammates displayed a degree of perfectionism. The Spurs, fearing failure, adopted a conservative strategy, seeking to drag out the game until the end to secure a victory. Just when everyone believed the outcome was sealed, Tracy McGrady rose to the occasion. In the final 35 seconds, he accomplished 3 three-pointers and a three-point play, staging a remarkable comeback and leading the Houston Rockets to an improbable win, a moment etched in history as the McGrady moment. In reality, both the San Antonio Spurs and McGrady's teammates were to some extent trapped by perfectionism. The Spurs, in the last few minutes, played it safe, self-imposing limitations due to the fear of failure, and stopped pursuing greater breakthroughs. Unfortunately, McGrady's teammates also felt disheartened by the continuous loss of points, similarly limiting their dreams of success. However, faced with an unfavorable game situation, Tracy McGrady didn't succumb to the self-imposed limitations of perfectionism. Imagine if McGrady had thought, "Oh my, there are only 35 seconds left, and I need to score 4 three-pointers to win. That's an enormous goal, and I'm surely overwhelmed." He would have been as daunted as everyone else, unable to reverse the tide. Instead, he chose to accept the imperfect situation, confront adversity head-on, and focus only on each opportunity to make a shot. When interviewed about his mindset during that time, McGrady recalled, "What was I thinking? I was just thinking, don't give up. I just need to put the ball in the basket. When they inbound the ball, try to steal it. If not, foul them." He didn't dwell on the result, solely concentrating on what he needed to do at that moment. He didn't even know how many shots he attempted. It's this imperfectionist mindset that forged the McGrady moment. If perfectionism is a cognitive framework that confines our lives to limited spaces, then imperfectionism is an ideal model for breaking free from limitations and placing our lives in an infinite space. So, how can we become imperfectionists? Perfectionism, as a cognitive framework, has become ingrained in our habits. To transition into imperfectionists, we must employ specific strategies to reprogram our muscle memory. What kind of strategies should we adopt? The author provides us with a simple method here, known as the mini-task method. In essence, mini-tasks involve compelling yourself to perform small, almost inconceivable positive actions every day. For example, doing a single push-up daily or reading a single page of a book. These actions are so small that they are virtually fail-proof, and they won't be easily abandoned due to special circumstances. Mini-tasks serve a dual purpose: they motivate you to keep going, and they become habits. The author of this book, Guys, has also written another book called Mini Habits, which is about enhancing productivity through mini-tasks. Since sharing this method on his blog in 2012, it has helped hundreds of people break free from the shadows of perfectionism and steadily increase their productivity. I, too, have benefited from mini-tasks. Earlier, I shared my experiences of profound failure, but later, I found a method that suited me. Since I changed my fitness goal to doing a single jump rope exercise every day, my workout frequency has increased significantly, and I have more flexibility in choosing the time and place. Whether at home, at school, or at work, because the goal is so small that it doesn't burden me psychologically and requires almost no willpower, I find myself thinking, since I'm already in position, why not do a few more? As a result, I often surpass my fitness goals. Over time, exercise is no longer a special task. It doesn't require the perfect time and place. It has become a part of my daily life, something I can do anytime, anywhere. Mini-tasks successfully resolve the issue of my inability to take action. Why do mini-tasks help us break free from perfectionism? It's because they are grounded in science and align with the habitual workings of our brains. Our brains have a part responsible for executing habits called the basal ganglia, and another part for making decisions called the prefrontal cortex. The basal ganglia is a stubborn part of the brain that repeats habits we've formed every day, maintaining them long-term until it receives a change signal from the prefrontal cortex. Up to 45% of our behaviors are carried out automatically by the basal ganglia without the need for conscious thought. However, the prefrontal cortex has a significant flaw: it easily fatigues. Once it decides to turn a substantial goal into a daily habit, it can use your blood sugar levels and negative emotions to make you give up. For example, in the morning, it might help you analyze the benefits of eating a healthy meal, but by noon, it's fatigued, and your body might tell you, "Oh well, you're too hungry, just have a regular meal." Sometimes, the prefrontal cortex assigns a big goal to the basal ganglia, but since the basal ganglia resists change and believes the large goal disrupts its usual operations, you still can't persist. In such dilemmas, mini-tasks prove their usefulness. They have negligible perceived difficulty and don't impose any fatigue burden on your prefrontal cortex. They also don't disrupt your usual habit patterns, avoiding rejection by the basal ganglia. Through mini-tasks, you unconsciously incorporate positive actions into your habitual mode of operation, creating a new habit that your brain can adapt to effortlessly. Even if you decide to increase the difficulty of this goal in the future, you can easily accomplish it because the basal ganglia is already familiar with it. From this perspective, our brains themselves are imperfectionists. They cannot bear the immense goal pressure that perfectionism brings. These seemingly imperfect mini-tasks, in fact, align perfectly with the way our brains work, offering long-lasting benefits. Additionally, mini-tasks can cultivate a crucial skill, shifting our focus from outcomes to processes. Perfectionists often fixate solely on the end result, becoming risk-averse when they perceive a chance of success. However, by breaking formidable tasks into continuous mini-tasks, we can develop the ability to concentrate on the process. For example, when you wake up on a weekend morning with plans to attend a lecture, focusing solely on the outcome might make you hesitant. There's a humorous saying online that illustrates this: listening to the lecture doesn't guarantee understanding, understanding doesn't guarantee acing the assignment doesn't guarantee passing the exam doesn't guarantee graduation, and graduating doesn't guarantee finding a job doesn't guarantee finding a partner. While it's a joke, it highlights how focusing on the end result can be intimidating. In such situations, what you need to do is consciously break down the task of waking up, getting ready, and attending the lecture into a series of mini-tasks. Task 1, simply roll out of bed. Task 2, you're now out of bed. Task 3, walk a couple of steps to turn off the alarm. Task 4, brush your teeth and wash your face to wake up fully. By following this pattern, you'll realize that if you consciously focus on the mini-tasks at hand, the overwhelming nature of the grand task diminishes. Even the most challenging processes become manageable when you break them down step by step. Mini-tasks, by directing our attention to the process and the present moment, dismantle the perfectionist mindset, which obsesses over results. They propel us towards positive action without the burden of perfectionism and fear of difficulty. The appeal of mini-tasks doesn't end here. They also encourage you to embrace challenges and enhance your satisfaction. We know that perfectionists often struggle with performance-based tasks, such as public speaking, exams, or social interactions, collectively termed performance tasks. Faced with these tasks, we tend to focus on every detail, striving for a perfect performance, fearing that any slip-up might lead to embarrassment or failure. This perfectionist thinking breeds negative emotions and fear of taking action. However, if you consciously transform performance tasks into mini-digit tasks, defined as tasks consisting of only zeros and ones, 0 for not done, 1 for done, you can overcome the fear of failure. In this context, imagine that your task is to press a switch and turn on the room's light. You merely need to execute this one action. Even if you stumble during the process, as long as you complete the task of turning on the light, you have successfully achieved it. In this mini-digit task, turning on the light is a 1, and not turning it on is a 0, and you don't need to worry about how well you perform during the process. Similarly, if you view performance tasks as mini-digit tasks, defining perfection as completing rather than excelling, your inner fears will no longer hold you back. For example, imagine you're about to give a 1-hour speech in front of 5,000 people. If you're a perfectionist, you might strive for perfection in every detail, aiming for a flawless performance to make a great impression. However, by redefining successful speech as merely stepping onto the stage and delivering your message, you remove the fear of failure. Stepping onto the stage and speaking your words is already a success. The only way to fail in this context is to say nothing at all. Even if you make numerous mistakes during your speech, you'll still score a 1 instead of a 0. Typically, people encourage perfectionists to accept imperfections to bring about change. But the practical approach is to redefine what we consider as perfection. By adopting the mini-digit task method, you naturally achieve this. Being able to speak in front of 5,000 people is already an achievement. Being brave enough to do it without worrying about the result is remarkable. People often view making mistakes as a step backward, but for imperfectionists, all the mistakes we make on the path to progress are acceptable. Only by simplifying our goals can we easily attain success and enter a positive cycle of success. Here, I've provided an interpretation of the essential content from the book, How to Be an Imperfectionist. Lastly, I'd like to share a personal reflection. Before reading this book, I wasn't aware of the harm that perfectionism invisibly inflicts upon us. We allow it to control our thoughts, criticize us, and hold us back. It places us in a cage shrouded with fear, inhibiting our progress and self-expression. However, this book informs us that imperfection is the essence of this world and the way our brains operate. When we train ourselves using less-than-perfect mini-tasks, we discover that we can run toward our goals with newfound freedom and fearlessness. In the words of a famous saying, better is the enemy of good. Pursuing perfection single-mindedly only leads to mental exhaustion. But when we shed the burden of perfectionism, we paradoxically get closer to perfection. Alright, that concludes the essence of this book. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, the audiobook channel. Give it a thumbs up and share it with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading. Open the door to a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.